What's the impact in terms of crime? What's the impact in terms of human trafficking? What's the impact in terms of drugs? As Senator Ernst said, it is a challenge these drugs are a challenge for every state.
All right, now that was Senator John Hoeven of the beautiful state of North Dakota, and you're probably thinking to yourself, well, he comes from a state that's nowhere near the border, so why would he be talking and worrying about the border? Well, like many other governors and senators, representatives from states that are far from Texas, it's the same issue. It's the safety issue. It's the drug issue. It's the out-of-control potential crime issue. Senator Hoeven, nice enough to join us today. Senator, very good to see you. People probably ask you that all the time. All right, you're from North Dakota, love the state, but it's nowhere near Texas. So what are you doing here, and what do you say?
Neil, good to be with you. That's actually the third time I've been down to the Texas border in the last little over a year. I've also been on the other side of the border in Mexico. I've been in Central and South America as well, trying to secure the border. Border security is national security. You just reviewed why it's so important for every state, whether it's the drugs. You saw there was a record fentanyl bust, 1 million pills that came in across the Mexican border just recently here. You've got human trafficking. I don't know if you saw, we were out there till 1 o'clock at night, just day before yesterday. People coming across, human trafficking. And it's not just, the kids, women that are coming across being human trafficked. In many cases, the people coming from South America or Central America or other places, there's now people coming from more than 150 different countries. They don't have the money to pay these cartels and the coyotes to come. So when they get here, they're in essence in indentured servitude. For the men, that may be crime, pushing drugs. Obviously, for the women, you can understand what they go through. So this is a huge problem, and it needs to be changed.
I just wonder if any progress was made when the president, before he left off for Israel and Saudi Arabia, met with the Mexican president, Obrador. There was a great expectation for that, as you know, Senator, because Obrador had, sort of thumbed his nose at appearing at that California Summit of the Americas event hosted by the president. But it appears that, nothing is being done on this front. If anything, Obrador, sort of zinged the president, saying that he's kind of getting tired of Americans coming to Mexico for the cheaper gas. What did you make of it all?
Well, I think you're right. I mean, he even kind of rubbed it in when he talked about oil prices being cheaper in Mexico. And I know there's been a lot of discussion on that. And the problem with energy prices and inflation is the Biden administration's policy. It's not about going to Saudi Arabia and asking for more oil. It's about his policy here in this country. But yes, you're right. Really nothing got done there in terms of border security with Obrador. But look, the Biden administration has the ability to secure that border. We appropriated and authorized funding for a border wall, which they quit building. So it just sits there uncompleted, even though they have the money and the authorization to do it. And then they won't implement the policies they have to close the border as well.
And it's creating this problem. As you're speaking, Senator, and guys, if we can go full on what we're seeing happening in Eagle Pass right now, this is the latest batch of migrants who've been apprehended at the border. Some just surrendered themselves. Others are caught, but a good many are not. And this can happen by the hundreds per day, even in the heat and despite the heat. So it's accelerating. But this is a routine event. It's not an uncommon event. It's not something special or unique. And it happens all the time. And, Senator, as you've noted in the past, there aren't enough people on our side to deal with it.
Well, look, there were 239,000 illegal encounters just in the last month. 239,000. So that's a record. There's been 1.5 million encounters with people crossing illegally so far this year. What's that number going to be for the whole year? Probably more than 2 million. So it's a problem that's getting worse because the Biden administration is not enforcing the policies that will stop it. So our Customs and Border Protection people, our Border Patrol people, Texas law enforcement, National Guard, everybody's down there, but they can't they can't get the job done because they're not allowed to do their job. And that's why we were down there, 7 senators, calling attention to the policies that are causing the problem.
Yeah, and then now the fact that we have to, deal with them and go ahead and adjudicate this on our side of the border rather than the Mexican side of the border, bigger crowds, more migrants, more problems, right?
Absolutely, and you mentioned it earlier. It's the drugs, it's the human trafficking, but it's the crime in our cities. Then that's exacerbated, by these sanctuary cities and by the defunding the police, and all these things mean that Americans aren't safe in their communities. So these policies have to be changed. This is something that affects everybody across this great country, not just the border states.
Yeah, and then you come as far as they could come to pound that point. Senator, thank you very, very much. Senator John Hoeven, looking at that again, folks, you would think it's unusual, and it does warrant, a Fox alert to show what's going on here. But the fact of the matter is, this is routine. We just thought we'd show you what the others routinely do not cover, but it's worthy of covering.